Well, hi there, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Z's once again, reading strategies. Hey, remember the other day I did a lesson regarding cause and effect. Today we're going to follow up and read the story of Ruby Bridges by Robert Coles, illustrated by George Ford. Now, this is a story that we can analyze cause and effect. And we're going to do that throughout some of the story pages. We're also, boys and girls, going to analyze character traits. We're going to use another strategy of visualization. So before we go on to the next slide, don't forget to subscribe to Mrs. Z's channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. And don't forget to like our page. All right, let's get started. Remember, as we read, think about those signal words or signal language to help us find that cause and effect relationship. Can you pause? Can you say some of those words? Do you remember? Tell your teacher or your parent or the student next to you a few of those words. I'll give you a moment. Okay, I think I hear. Some of you are saying since, so, for, as a result, so that, and a very familiar one, because. Those are some signal languages to help you find the cause and effect relationship. All right, let's get ready to read our story of Ruby Bridges. She was a little girl who helped transform the world. She was hated by many, but she brought so many of us together. Here we go. Ruby Bridges was born in a small cabin near Tylerton, Mississippi. We were very, very poor, Ruby said. My daddy worked picking crops. We just barely got by. There were times when we didn't have much to eat. The people who owned the land were bringing in machines to picking crops, so my daddy lost his job. And that's when we had to move. I remember us leaving. I was 4, I think. All right, boys and girls, let's look at this page. We're going to attempt to identify cause and effect relationship. First of all, think about the character, Ruby Bridges. Let's talk about a few of her character traits. What type of little girl do you think she is? If you will visualize, look at the pictures, you see that she's sitting down and she's waiting and she's kind of sad and she has a bear in her hand. Looks like they're getting ready to move. How would you feel if you had to move from place to place? Because they were very hard times. Seems like she's a sweet little girl, but at this time she seems so sad. Now, let's identify cause and effect on this page. Something causes something to happen. Remember that cause asks the question, why? Or it answers the question to why. Remember that cause always happens first, and the effect always happens secondly. The effect is what happened next as a result of that's effect. Now, there were times we didn't have much to eat. Right here in this sentence here. There were times when we didn't have much to eat. Well, boys and girls, what caused that? What's the cause? I'll give you a moment. Okay, let's go back to the passage. What do we know so far? We know that Ruby Bridges' family is very, very poor. We know that there were times they didn't have much to eat. And we also know that Daddy worked picking crops. So if we read on a little bit further, I can identify a cause and effect relationship. I also see a signal word or signal language, or some might say clue word. Can you find it? The people who owned the land were bringing in machines to pick the crops. So my daddy lost his job, and that's when we had to move. Oh, wow. So, S-O. Boys and girls, that's a signal word or signal language. That lets you know that there's a cause and effect relationship in this particular sentence. Let's find it. The people who owned the land were bringing in machines to pick the crops. So what happened as a result? So my daddy lost his job. Which is the cause? Which is the effect? The cause is the people who own the land were bringing in machines to pick the crops. So after that, Dad lost his job. That's the effect. That happened as a result of. Okay, thumbs up if you understand. Cause and effect. Let's read the next page. In 1957, the family moved to New Orleans. Ruby's father became a janitor. Her mother took care of the children during the day. After they were tucked in bed, Ruby's mother went to work scrubbing floors in a bank. Every Sunday, the family went to church. We wanted our children to be near God's Spirit, Ruby's mother said. We wanted them to start feeling close to Him from the very start. Okay, let's analyze Mom's character. What type of mother is Ruby's mother? What do you think? What are her character traits? I think she's a nice lady. I think she's caring. I think she's responsible by taking care of her family. I think she's hardworking because it says that she puts the kids to bed and then she goes to work at the bank after they are tucked in. I think she's a wonderful mother. What do you think, boys and girls? Talk it over with your peers. At that time, Black children and white children went to separate schools in New Orleans. The Black children were not able to receive the same education as the white children. It wasn't fair, and it was against the nation's law. In 1960, a judge ordered 4 Black girls to go to 2 white elementary schools. 3 of the girls were sent to Madonna 19. 6-year-old Ruby Bridges was sent to 1st grade in the William Frantz Elementary School. All right, boys and girls, let's visualize. That's one of our reading strategies. Can you visualize yourself going to a different school than a different race? How would you feel? Visualize Ruby in your mind. Can you see her? How did she feel? Let's look at the picture on the page. Ruby is here in a little yellow dress. After she found out that she was going to be sent to William Frantz Elementary School, I think she's happy. That let us know that the laws were going to be changed, and it was going to be changed for the best. Okay, let's read on. Ruby's parents were proud that their daughter had been chosen to take part in an important event in American history. They went to church. We sat there and prayed to God, Ruby's mother said, that we'd all be strong and we have courage and we get through any trouble. And Ruby would be a good girl and she'd hold her head up high and be a credit to her own people and a credit to all the American people. We prayed long and we prayed hard. On Ruby's first day, a large crowd of angry white people gathered outside the France Elementary School. The people carried signs and said that they didn't want black children in a white school. People called Ruby names. Some wanted to hurt her. The city and state police did not help Ruby. The President of the United States ordered federal marshals to walk with Ruby into the school building. The marshals carried guns. Now, boys and girls, I can identify a cause and effect relationship on this particular page. Let's look at this last sentence. The President of the United States ordered a federal marshal to walk with Ruby into the school building. The marshals carried guns. What caused this to happen? What caused the President of the United States to order federal marshals to walk with Ruby into the school? If we look up a little further, it tells us. It said that on the first day, a large crowd of angry white people, gathered outside the France Elementary School. The people, they carried signs. They didn't want black children in the white school. Ruby recalled names, and some wanted to hurt her. And because of this, I used the signal word because. And because of this reason, the President of the United States ordered federal marshals to walk with Ruby into the school. So, boys and girls, that's a cause and effect relationship. The cause is that people didn't like her and they had signs and they called Ruby names. But the effect, what happened second? What happened next? This is when the President of the United States ordered federal marshals to walk with Ruby. So something had to happen first. Something had to happen second. Don't forget that cause always answers the questions to why something happens. All right, thumbs up if you understand. Let's keep reading. Every day for weeks that turned into months, Ruby experienced that kind of school day. She walked to the France school surrounded by marshals. Wearing a clean dress and a bow in her hair and carrying her lunch pail, Ruby walked slowly for the first few blocks. As Ruby approached the school, she saw a crowd of people marching up and down the street. Men and women and children shouted at her. They pushed toward her. The marshals kept them from Ruby by threatening to arrest them. Ruby would hurry through the crowd and not say a word. Let's analyze Ruby's character. What type of little girl is she? Wow, I think she's a very strong girl. I think she's determined. She's strong. She's adamant about getting to her school, doing her lesson, doing the right thing, no matter what anyone says, because she believes that she deserves a good education just like everybody else. She has great character traits. The white people in the neighborhood would not send their children to school. When Ruby got inside the building, she was all alone except for her teacher, Mrs. Henry. There were no other children to keep Ruby company, to play with, learn with, to eat lunch with. But every day, Ruby went into the classroom with a big smile on her face, ready to get down to business of learning. She was polite and she worked well at her desk, Mrs. Henry said. She enjoyed her time there. She didn't seem nervous or anxious or irritable or scared. She seemed as normal and relaxed as any child I ever taught. So Ruby began learning how to read and write in an empty classroom, an empty building. Good job, Ruby. How do you think she felt, boys and girls? Think about it. How does you think she felt that she's the only one in class? No other friends in class, no one by her side, no one to read with, no one to play with. How do you think she felt? How would you feel? I agree. I would feel kind of lonely or sad. But if you keep reading, she was very determined to read and write. So she did it all by herself for a while, with the help of her teacher, Mrs. Henry. That lets me know that Mrs. Henry is very helpful. She's doing her job. She's a nice teacher. Sometimes I look at her and wonder how she did it, said Mrs. Henry. How she went by those mobs and sat here all by herself and yet seemed so relaxed and comfortable. Mrs. Henry would question Ruby in order to find out if the girl was really nervous and afraid, even though she seemed so calm and confident. But Ruby kept saying she was doing fine. The teacher decided to wait and see if Ruby would keep on being so relaxed and hopeful, or if she gradually began to wear down, or even decide that she no longer wanted to go to school. Then one morning, something happened. Mrs. Henry stood by a window in her classroom as she usually did, watching Ruby walk toward the school. Suddenly, Ruby stopped, right in front of the mob of howling and screaming people. She stood there facing all those men and women. She seemed to be talking to them. Mrs. Henry saw Ruby's lips moving and wondered what Ruby could be saying. The crowd seemed ready to kill her. The marshals were frightened. They tried to persuade Ruby to move along. They tried to hurry into the school, but Ruby wouldn't budge. That means she wouldn't move. Then Ruby stopped talking and walked into the school. When she went into the classroom, Mrs. Henry asked her what happened. Mrs. Henry told Ruby that she'd been watching and that she was surprised when Ruby stopped and talked with the people in the mob. Ruby became irritated. I didn't stop and talk with them, she said. Ruby, I saw you talking, Mrs. Henry said. I saw your lips moving. I wasn't talking, said Ruby. I was praying. I was praying for them. Every morning, Ruby had stopped a few blocks away from school to say a prayer for the people who hated her. This morning, she forgot until she was already in the middle of an angry mob. When school was over for the day, Ruby hurried through the mob as usual. After she walked a few blocks and the crowd was behind her, Ruby said the prayer she repeated twice a day, before and after school. Please, God, try to forgive those people, because even if they say those bad things, they don't know what they're doing. So you could forgive them, just like you did those folks a long time ago when they did terrible things about you. And that's the end of the Ruby Bridges story. Thank you for joining us, boys and girls. Don't forget to subscribe to Mrs. Z's channel. Don't forget to hit the like button. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you may receive new videos each time they're uploaded. Take care until the next story read aloud. Keep reading. Bye-bye.